The United States, in an attempt to protect its own industries, has slapped tariffs on goods from countries like China, Canada, Mexico, and the European Union. What started as a trade dispute has escalated into a full-blown trade war. The message is clear: the world is not taking these tariffs lying down. The economic consequences are already being felt worldwide. One thing is certain: the playground rules of global trade have changed, and the world is watching to see who blinks first. Remember when you were a kid and you wouldn't let your friend play with your toys, and then they took their ball and went home? That's kind of what's happening with global trade right now. Except instead of toys, it's steel and soybeans. And instead of kids, it's the United States and, well, pretty much everyone else. The United States, in an attempt to protect its own industries, has slapped tariffs on goods from countries like China, Canada, Mexico, and the European Union. These tariffs, essentially taxes on imported goods, are meant to make American products cheaper and more appealing to consumers. However, this protectionist approach has sparked a global backlash, with targeted countries retaliating with their own tariffs on U.S. goods. What started as a trade dispute has escalated into a full-blown trade war, with casualties mounting on both sides. The situation is further fueled by a growing Boycott USA movement, a grassroots consumer rebellion against American-made products. From Canadian supermarkets pulling Coca-Cola off their shelves to Danish shoppers rejecting Levi's jeans, the message is clear: the world is not taking these tariffs lying down. This trade war, with its tit-for-tat tariffs and boycotts, is creating a climate of uncertainty and instability in the global market. The economic consequences are already being felt worldwide, and the long-term implications for international trade and cooperation remain unclear. One thing is certain: the playground rules of global trade have changed, and the world is watching to see who blinks first. The U.S. government argues that these tariffs are essential for protecting American jobs and industries from unfair foreign competition. The Trump administration, in particular, has championed this protectionist stance, promising to bring back manufacturing jobs and reduce the trade deficit. The steel and aluminum industries, for example, have long been struggling to compete with cheaper imports, particularly from China. The tariffs on these metals, the administration argues, are necessary to level the playing field and revitalize these critical sectors. However, critics argue that these tariffs are nothing more than a short-sighted attempt to prop up industries that are no longer globally competitive. They contend that the tariffs will ultimately harm American consumers and businesses by driving up prices and disrupting supply chains. Furthermore, many experts believe that these protectionist measures are actually undermining the very industries they are intended to protect. The tariffs have increased the cost of raw materials for American manufacturers, making their products more expensive and less competitive in the global market. The international response to the U.S. tariffs has been swift and decisive. Countries targeted by the tariffs have retaliated with their own tariffs on a range of American goods, from bourbon and motorcycles to soybeans and orange juice. The European Union, for example, has imposed tariffs on $26 billion worth of U.S. goods, targeting products that are politically sensitive in states that are key to President Trump's support base. Canada, America's closest trading partner, has retaliated with tariffs on $29.8 billion Canadian dollars worth of U.S. goods, striking at the heart of America's agricultural and manufacturing sectors. Adding fuel to the fire is the Boycott USA movement, a grassroots consumer-led protest against the U.S. tariffs. This movement has gained significant traction, particularly in Canada and Europe, where consumers are actively choosing to avoid American-made products. Social media platforms have become virtual battlegrounds, with hashtags like #BoycottUSA and #TradeWar trending worldwide. From calls to boycott American brands to sharing lists of alternative products, consumers are using their collective voice to express their displeasure with U.S. trade policies. This combination of retaliatory tariffs and consumer boycotts is creating a perfect storm for American businesses, particularly those reliant on exports. The economic consequences are already being felt across a range of sectors, from agriculture and manufacturing to technology and entertainment. The trade war and the Boycott USA movement have sent shockwaves through the American economy, impacting businesses of all sizes and across various sectors. From multinational corporations to small family-owned businesses, the consequences are being felt far and wide. The agricultural sector, in particular, has been hit hard by retaliatory tariffs. China, once the largest importer of American soybeans, has all but ceased purchases, leaving American farmers with a surplus they are struggling to sell. The manufacturing sector, already grappling with increased costs due to the tariffs on steel and aluminum, is facing declining orders as the global economy slows. Companies are postponing investments, scaling back production, and laying off workers, creating a ripple effect throughout the economy. The technology sector, a shining star of the American economy, is also feeling the heat. The ongoing trade dispute with China, coupled with consumer boycotts, has impacted sales of American tech products, from smartphones and laptops to software and services. American farmers, once the backbone of the nation's economy, are facing an unprecedented crisis. The trade war, particularly the dispute with China, has decimated their export markets, leaving them with mountains of unsold crops and dwindling incomes. China, once the largest importer of American soybeans, has virtually stopped buying, leaving American farmers with a massive surplus. Soybean prices have plummeted, falling to their lowest levels in a decade, pushing many farmers to the brink of bankruptcy. The Trump administration has offered billions of dollars in aid to farmers hurt by the trade war, but many argue that these payments are a band-aid solution that does not address the underlying problem. The loss of export markets, coupled with the uncertainty surrounding future trade relations, has created a climate of fear and anxiety in rural America. This crisis in the agricultural sector has far-reaching implications for the entire American economy. Farmers are major consumers of goods and services, from tractors and fertilizers to insurance and banking. Their financial struggles will ripple throughout the rural economy, impacting businesses and communities across the country.
If you like this video, please subscribe.